What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Rodrigo here from rodstudios.com. I'm here with Miguel, and it's our special guest today, Miss Tianna, right?
Yep, Tianna.
I got you. Miss Tianna, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I was born and raised in North Carolina from Topsail Island. I went to school at UNC Chapel Hill and then kind of stayed in the Raleigh area for a while, and now I'm living in Benson. So about 40 minutes away. And I started photography back in 2017. Just for fun. And then I decided I was going to try to start a business in 2019, and then COVID hit. So, but ever since I've been doing photography and loving it. So.
Nice. What kind of business? I'm sorry. What kind of business? Photography?
Yeah, I do weddings and portraits. So. Mm-hmm.
Do you niche down to that specific, just weddings and portraits, or?
I started. I went to a photography workshop and just did like a posing course with another local photographer. Met a couple others, and one asked me to be their second shooter at weddings. So that's how I kind of got into the weddings. But I do family, seniors. So I'm kind of all over the place.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you prefer Sony or Canon or any other brand?
So I am Canon,
okay,
but I wouldn't say I have a preference. That's just what I started on. Okay. So I haven't really tried any of the other cameras.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. I personally like Sony only because I started with video only, so videography, and then they started asking for photography too, like same thing, weddings and all that. And I slowly got into it. I liked it, so I just kept it. But I like from Sony, I like how it's very hybrid. You can do a little bit of both. It's not as great. I would say it's not as great as Canon as far as photography, but the video quality, I feel like it's better than Canon at the moment.
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure my R6 would struggle a little bit. So.
Do you do videos too, or just?
No. Yeah. Don't ask me how to even turn on the video function. I couldn't tell you. Yeah.
Because I think that's as did buy a camera. I wanted to start photography, but that's around the same time I started getting more clientele in my tattoo journey. So it was like, do I choose photography or do I choose this? I was like, I'm gonna just keep on tattooing.
Yeah, it's hard because they both take up a lot of time.
I did like it. I did like it a lot because at that time we were just going. It was just me and some random person. We'll just go anywhere and start taking pictures. Yeah. And I like that.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But I was like, I need to pay bills.
Yeah, honestly. Yep, I get that.
See, for me, Sony's were recommended, and then when I saw the price, I was like,
I would say that Sony's are.
They're expensive.
And also I was taught that the best camera you have is the one you always have on you. So then I started focusing into like iPhone photography and things like that, mainly because of work. But it just so happened to like be just enough for what I need per se. Yeah. So it saved me about $3,000.
Oh yeah, it's always nice when it saves you some money.
Yeah, like if there's no need for it, I don't think it's worth the investment. I would say lenses are like probably the biggest expense.
The glass.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially if you want like quality ones.
So, my bad.
No, go ahead.
So there's a dilemma as far as like tattoo artists in taking photos, right? Like, what would you guys recommend? Because as soon as the tattoo is finished, right, we take a picture or video, but he has a glare, so we have to use polarized lens here, and then the light has to have like a polarized film over it. So what would you guys recommend? What kind of lens? What kind of light?
It's more of a lighting technique.
Yeah. I would say you definitely have to get the right lighting. And lens wise, I mean, I think you'd be fine with any lens, but I personally prefer primes or something close to a prime. So something that'll, will really focus on it, and you can get that nice bokeh around it. Yeah.
Okay. So what is a prime?
So yeah, basically it's a non-zoom lens. It has a fixed focal length. Yeah. So like, what are you shooting on, a 50?
It's a 16 Sigma Prime.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, so it just has that focal length. You are the zoom, so you've got to either walk forward to get closer or walk backwards to get farther. Whereas a zoom lens, you can kind of just...
I started with a zoom lens, and I like that it made my job easier. But then so before I got this one, I got a 35 millimeter prime. And when I started using that, I got it for photography. And I like the photos with the way they come out way better than the zoom that I had. And then I was like, well, let me try it with video too. And the quality was, you know what I mean?
It's just way sharper to me.
I was like, I'm gonna go all prime. Yeah. I mean, plus I like walking around, moving around. It kind of gets you in there instead of just being outside of whatever you're recording.
So you guys don't believe in autofocus?
This is autofocus. Yeah.
Oh
no.
So there's a difference.
So the autofocus has nothing. So the zoom is basically you being able to be here and zooming in all the way to like the exit sign.
Have you seen sports photography? Like you can see it on, and they zoom in all of a sudden to, that's what it is.
But you can do like across the whole field. And get, like,
So you can really focus in on that.
Well, the prime is literally just what you see on the camera. That's what you get. You can't like zoom in or out with it. But it's a lot more crisper too.
Okay, so you can't make the image bigger, but you can tune it, right? Because you said you can focus.
Right. So like whenever you're editing it, you can zoom in, crop it in.
Yeah.
But like for example, with this camera, right? If you wanted it to be like close to your face, you can do that easily with the zoom. Like you zoom it in, and the camera doesn't have to move. With this camera, though, if you want it close to your face, you literally got to bring it close to your face. Yeah.
I will say though, when I'm doing weddings, I do use a zoom, but it's kind of a hybrid and it's close to being a prime.
Yeah.
I use a 2870 2.0.
Okay.
So it gives you the prime like bokeh and blurred background, but with the ability to zoom. So, and that one stays on my camera pretty much a whole wedding day because it's so versatile. So.
Yeah.
When it comes to choosing a camera, does it matter when it comes to how it looks, like on Instagram, for example, to show off your work or anything like that? Because that's one of the reasons why I use an iPhone instead of an Android, just out of the translation of the imagery and everything.
Honestly, I don't feel like it really matters in terms of, I mean, the lens matters more than the camera does for what you're looking for. And everything can be edited to fit whatever style. So to me, just by looking at something, I couldn't tell what would be a Nikon, a Sony, or a Canon. So
I would say this though, like if the quality you get from the camera, it's much higher than what you get from the phone.
Yeah.
But whenever you share it on social media, Instagram and Facebook and all them, they have they compress it. So either way, it goes back down.
That's what I was asking.
But if you shoot it on a camera that has a higher quality, when it compresses it, it's still a little better than if you shoot it with the phone.
And it captures more visual data.
Yeah. So like even though it compresses it, you still kind of get a little more.
Much.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Good to know.
Kind of like when, I don't know if you ever try like editing a photo on your phone versus editing it like, let's say in Lightroom. That's where we edit like the pictures, and you download both. The one on the phone usually still looks kind of like faded a little bit, or like a little like if you put them side by side, you can kind of tell like this one has better tones than the other one from the phone. If that makes sense. So there's this kind of difference, but not a lot of people like view it that way either. So
yeah.
And when it comes to brands, what would you choose one over the other? Because I have a little brother who's a photographer, and he's all about Sony. He swears by Sony. That is his religion. He doesn't care if the lens costs $1,500. You'll save up for it. I don't know for what reason, but okay.
Honestly, like I said, I don't really have a preference. I started with Canon and just stuck with it because I learned Canon. I have a friend who does Sony, and that's all she'll ever do. She doesn't like any of the other ones. So I think it's just personal preference, honestly. And then, I mean, if you already have the equipment for it, it's having to switch to a whole new brand and buy all new equipment, yeah, is expensive.
Yeah.
So it's better to master what you started with first before anything.
I think so. Like I started with a Canon T2i, a Canon Rebel, and that was even old for the time I started with it. It was like ancient technology now. So I started with that, and then I moved to like a Canon 6D, which is still really old, and now I'm at an R6 mirrorless. So, I mean, yeah, I just shot with Canon and stayed with it because that's what I knew. But I think they all have their pros and cons. Like Sony, I think, is better in low light than Canon is. For weddings, that's important. And I don't know much about Nikon, but I heard their focusing is really good and spot on. But so it just depends, I think.
Yeah, I think like as far as like tattoo artists, they use a lot Sony for videos. I think it's the the 7A7 something. Yeah, and Canon for photography. But it's like, bro, like, do I really need two cameras? And they're expensive.
By tattoo artists, I was recommended Canon, and by photographers to do everything else, like you guys, Sony. Like you're the first one that I've seen that stuck to Canon per se.
I would say like Sony if you want to do a little bit of everything, so like pictures and videos. But I will say that if you kind of got to do your research on the camera because every camera is different. You can get one camera like a Sony, like the one I had before this one. It was a $500 one. It's ZB1F, so it's like a blogging camera, great for video, 4K quality.
That's a little one.
The little one, yeah. But the pictures were good, but not as good as like this one. So it really depends, like what you want, what you prefer.
Yeah, it's like cameras have stepping stones. So you have your basic point and shoot camera where you don't have to really change anything. You just shoot it and it takes the picture. And then you kind of move into like, I don't even know, do DSLRs still exist?
A few that use it, but
Yeah. Yeah, so DSLRs were before mirrorless, and that's what I started on. And you have like the beginner one, and then you kind of go up to intermediate and advanced. So I have a mirrorless now, an R6. So at the time when it came out, it was like the top of the line camera. Now there's like an R5. So that's like a step more, and that captures like a ton more data. So if you want to do like
do you have like a favorite lens overall?
right now, I would say, I know I said I was prime, and I am, but I would say the 2870 for the versatility during the wedding day. I mean, I don't have to take it off. It shoots like a prime, and I use it indoors, I use it outside. It stays on the camera the whole time. The only other, I shoot dual, so I have two cameras. So the only other time I'll change out my second one, which will go, sometimes I use a 50, but during the ceremony I use a 70 to 200. So.
What's your favorite post-editing program?
I use Lightroom. For the most part. Sometimes I go into Photoshop, but I mostly stick to Lightroom. I prefer it. It's just very simple, and for what I need it for, I don't really have to make too many major edits. So I might go into Photoshop if I'm like trying to remove a person or something. But for the most part, I just stick to Lightroom. It's just easy. It's more user-friendly, I'd say, than Photoshop is.
So, what days are weddings? Yes. What days do wedding fall the most, I guess?
Saturday is the major day, but I've had them Friday through Sunday. pretty much. I've even had a Wednesday wedding. But yeah, usually it's the weekends.
Do your prices vary per the day?
Mine don't. Some do, but my prices do vary based on the hours that I'll be there. So I have a package for 6 hours, 8 hours, and 10 hours. And I also have elopement packages. So it all varies based on how long I'm going to be there.
So it's not like us, like we can price by the day, like busy day, not busy day. Or
Yeah.
I mean, some photographers I think do set it up that way. I just don't, but to keep it simple, I don't want to have to remember all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, last time I had you on a Saturday. This time I have you on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I got you.
Right. And I think it also keeps it plain and simple and to the point for the client.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to overload him with like, well, if you get this is this, but if you want this is that. You know, it's like just one thing, straight to the point. So yeah.
Simple as you can make it for the client, the better, because if they get overloaded with too much, it gets confusing to them. And then they're like, oh, well, my friend got this price, so or, you know.
Yeah. So my thing was like, I want to tag along with a photographer. I don't want to get paid. I just want to go experience it, like be the little, I guess, the third person with a camera or the second person with a camera. But it's like every time somebody's doing something on a Saturday, and that's my busiest day. So I'm like, bro, what?
And they're mostly wedding-wise. It's mostly going to be on the weekends, which will be your busiest time too.
Yes.
Do you work on Sundays? Usually.
That's a Lord's Day.
Okay. Because it'll mostly be Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Friday.
Yes, I figured, and it was like something I had to come to peace with. Basically, I was like, yeah, I don't think photography is for me, or not at the moment. So
I mean, you could always do like, are you interested in strictly weddings or portraits, like to families, seniors, that kind of thing?
I think what I want to do is like capture the moment. That is the biggest thing for me, is capturing a moment, whether it's birthday party, whether it's whatever it is, just capture the moment. Yes.
Yeah, because I was going to say, if you do like portraits and stuff, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the weekend. I do a lot of my seniors' families during the week because weekends are for weddings. So,
So what inspired you to become a photographer?
yeah, so I never thought I would be a photographer. I always thought I was going to be like an author or something because I was very into reading. Honestly, as a kid, I just would go outside with a little point and shoot camera and take photos of flowers or various things like that. And I always liked photography, but it wasn't really until when I went to UNC, I studied abroad in England for a year. And so that's kind of when I got into it. That's when I got my T2I to take with me over there. I started taking pictures of buildings and people and all kinds of things. And that's kind of when I really got into it. I found out that I really loved taking photos of people. So I would take my grandparents and take photos of them. And I realized how special those photos were, especially now that my grandfather has passed. It's like, that's what I have left of him. So kind of realizing that really like pushed me into capturing like these specific moments in people's lives. Like you're getting married, that's a big deal. Or you're graduating high school or college, that's a big deal. You're having a baby, like, or you just get, family photos, get them updated, have them, like you're gonna have those for years, you can pass those down. So that's kind of what got me into it.
Gotcha.
One of my friends, I saw her journey as soon as she started becoming a photographer, and I wanted to tag along with her, but like I said, it was always on a Saturday or something like that. But I love the way that she did it because she was very engaging. She would start talking to her whatchamacallit, muse. I don't know what you guys would call her. Her client, subject, whatever. And sometimes it was just for her. It wasn't even like she was a client. She was just like the subject, I guess. She was like, start talking to them. Okay, pretend you're doing this, do this, and then she would tell them what to do, command them to do something, and then she would get what she was wanting out of it. it wasn't like smile. She would start like talking to them, joking with her, and then she would catch a genuine smile, and then like
So that is
capture.
genuine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
candids, yeah.
Yes. So it was. So that I feel like that captured my attention more than anything because you were capturing the moment. You were capturing actual happiness. Yes.
So you sound like you're interested in like documentary style things. I am a blend of both. I do poses, of course, but I also do documentary. So like one pose that I like to do is I'll have them like walking towards me. They're not looking at me. I tell them don't look at me. But I'll have them hip bump each other. Not enough to make each other fall down, but it usually starts giggles. So they usually giggle or, sometimes they even will like toss in like a spin randomly or start or something. And that's just something to like start them, to get them comfortable with me. Because if I'm just saying, hey, I need you to stand just like this and smile at me the whole time, that's going to be awkward. It makes them like, especially if they're not comfortable in front of a camera. So.
And that's
Exactly. So you want to capture like actual laughs, actual giggles, something, where it's just, yeah, exactly.
Have you ever done creative photography?
A little bit in college. I took a class, and did a couple of like abstract things. But I mostly just stuck back with people and doing like the portrait stuff. But I do like to do like creative in terms of styled shoots. Like I like to have a theme like fantasy or, whatever it is. Those are always fun and they're a good like way to break it up, I feel like. So get some inspiration after you do like a ton of weddings. Sometimes you want to move into something else for a little while.
So as a photographer, do you focus on like the color theory part?
Not, no, you're good. I know you can't hear me, but to answer his question, not so much color theory. Like I do everything just based on what I think looks good. I mean, sometimes I can't control colors or anything like that. So just based off what I think looks good, honestly. It's not a very detailed answer, but.
Do you use like a flash or anything with you, or?
Yeah, so I try my best, depending on where I am, not to use a flash as much as I can. But obviously in the wedding world, you're gonna need one. So like I shoot at Carelock Farms a lot, and their bridal suite does not have a window. So I have to use a flash in there. It's just too dark or too orange or something like that. So yeah, I'm constantly using a flash. I use a flash for the reception pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. Got you.
I'm guessing connected to his question, because I know where he was going with that. What principles do you first like employ when it comes to your photography? Because for us, for example, we're taught different principles when it comes to like symmetrical and asymmetrical balance, emphasis, things like that I've seen through my little brother that also apply to photography per se in certain types of shootings.
So I use the rule of thirds a lot. So I'll do that. You know what that is? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I use the rule of thirds a lot. Honestly, the most important thing for me when choosing where to shoot, because it'll help later, is lighting. So you always do like lighting, then location, pretty much. So if the lighting's not there, it could be a very pretty location, but if the lighting's not there, then it's not going to really capture what you want it to capture. Yeah, so it's lighting, then location, because honestly, if I find like somewhere with really good lighting in a parking lot, I'm going to use that. Or like on the side of the road or something, I'll use that. It doesn't like mean like there's a really pretty park over there and it's gorgeous, but it's in direct sun. Like that's not how I like to shoot. I like more diffused look. So that wouldn't be the location for me. Even though it's really pretty, I would prefer this little spot in the parking lot over that because of the lighting.
And then that's where also like where primes shine a little bit more than zooms. Yeah. Primes are better in low light. Mm-hmm. And then again, you pair a lens that is very good in low light with, like, for example, a Canon or a Sony camera that's also good in low light. It's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, it's perfect. Good. Yes.
Yeah, where you at? Where you at? I want to see you. Right?
Answer about the principles that she uses, as far as like how some principles of ours in art also translate over to photography. And she mentioned the rule of thirds and lighting goes first before location.
Okay.
It was tied to your question too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I would say, because like I told them, it's just if you can manipulate the light, then you can make a good photo no matter where you are. But the location can be beautiful, but if it has bad lighting.
And I will add on like depth, like creating depth with that. So like instead of a picture just looking flat, make it look interesting. I think it's kind of like what you said when you will just go out and take pictures, to kind of like make it look cool. It's kind of like that, but with people.
Yeah, you need the dimension.
Dimensions, yes, the dimensions.
I got you. So, do you use light reflectors and all that too?
So honestly, most of the time I just bring my camera. I like when I'm out doing stuff like families or something like that, seniors, I can see how a reflector would help, but I really try to like use what I have. So sidewalk is a natural reflector, white buildings are natural reflectors, water's a natural reflector. And then I try to do open shade as much as possible. So like have a nice even lighting on them. And that really helps. So I don't really use it too much when I'm out and about outside. Now,
that is filtered first through the first requisite, which is lighting, right?
I'm sorry?
All that is filtered first through your first requisite, which is lighting.
Yep. So if I can find like all of this stuff in one location, then that's awesome. And sometimes, you don't find all of that, but I kind of just make it work with what I have on me, because I really try to interact more with the client than like struggling with my reflector or whatever.
Yes, that's why I would feel like I would have to have like a secondary person. Where I'd be like, bro, you're messing up my vibe. You doing it? Like, bro, really?
I know a lot of people will use like the moms of seniors to hold the reflector while they're shooting, so then they have someone. But
you got little parents.
Yeah. So I do use it in studio though. I just got lighting equipment and stuff for studio purposes, but I do have like a really big reflector just for that. But honestly, I don't use one out in the field really, which is where I do most things. So.
Yeah. What? Sorry, what are you gonna? Tell us like one of your biggest challenges that you have experienced.
Okay. I would say the biggest challenge in photography that I've experienced when I first started was the lighting thing. I didn't understand light. And if you don't understand light, then it makes it hard for you to manipulate your camera. So I struggled with getting photos that I really liked, just because I didn't understand like the principles of lighting, and how that really does play like a huge effect in what you want to achieve. And also, like, I struggled a little bit trying to learn the difference between shutter speed and aperture and all that stuff, ISO. But once I got the hang of it and once I learned my lighting, then I was like, oh, okay, this is how it all makes sense together.
Yeah. Who taught you lighting? Who was it a book you read or somebody you followed? Or?
So I played with it a lot, like myself, because I'm self-taught. pretty much. So I did that. I just did a lot of playing, seeing what I liked, and then also, have you guys heard of Caitlin James? She's a pretty big wedding photographer. She does a lot of courses, and so I took one of her courses online, and it explains lighting and location in a way that makes a lot of sense to the average person or whatever. So I took one of those, and that really kind of made sense. And then I also learned from other photographers in the area who I second shot with. Because as they were second shooting, or as I was second shooting for them, I'd ask questions like, oh, why is this spot better than this spot? Or why is this? Yes, I do. Tianna Sanders Photography.
The one you just mentioned, Caitlin.
Oh, Caitlin? Yeah, Caitlin James.
So is the secondary shoot is basically an apprentice, right? So you're working under them. They're telling you what to do. What is that?
So a second shooter, it can be an apprentice, or it could be just like another photographer you know who's already established. But you just need help on a wedding day. It's very difficult to shoot by yourself. It can be done. I do it a lot, but a second shooter is there to provide backup. So if my camera fails, I lose a SD card, whole day is gone. But I have somebody else there who also has the day on their camera. So it may be different angles, but at least I have something. So it's kind of like a prevention thing, or if I don't capture something, they probably did. So then you have kind of the full day. And it's just easier. You can kind of divide and conquer. Like if I'm with the bride and bridesmaids, they can be with the groom and groomsmen and taking all that. So that way, wedding timelines can be very tight. So you might not have all of the time to do a whole bunch. So if you divide it with 2 people, then it makes it easier.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you also teach them, or do you like just find somebody that is pretty much there that you won't have to?
It depends. I've had people who are there and I don't have to say anything, and I've had people who I've invited to come and shoot with me, so that way they can learn, because everybody has to start somewhere, and it's the easiest, I feel like, to just jump in and do it. Because weddings are a big thing. I think it makes a lot of people nervous, because if you miss something, that someone's going to. But being a second shooter is a little bit more relaxed, because you're not in charge and you're not the one who has to make sure everything is perfect. So but you can watch and you can learn and ask questions as I go.
Have you ever second shoot for companies? So you know how some companies reach out and they pay you to go. Basically, you do it yourself, but there's no editing or stuff like that you got to do.
I have not second shot for a company like that. I have second shot for other photographers who do all the editing, which is nice. Yeah. So I just show up, I shoot, and then yeah. But yeah, I haven't for any big companies or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Do you keep up with trends or
Not really. I will maybe do it for fun or something, but mostly I just stick to kind of the classic stuff, just because trends fade over time, and then something someone might like now, of course if that's what they want, I will do it, but I'll also take what I normally do, because trends fade, and you may think you like it now. Yeah, you may think you like it now, but in 20 years you might be like, what was I thinking? All my photos are blurry or something. It's I don't even know what my photo looked like because it was blurred.
What do you think about those photos that became very trendy now, where they shake?
Yeah, that's the one. I think they can be used in certain ways that can add to the story, but I don't want all of them to be that way. Yeah.
Main picture.
Yes. So I think it can be used to add to it, but definitely not the main picture. Definitely not every photo. Because are you going to put on your wall the blurry, or are you going to put something in focus that, you know, so. So yeah, I tend to not do too many trends unless it's just for fun or to play around, or if my client requests that. But I'm always going to take it the way I normally do too, just in case.
Right.
I just want to let you know that I'm fighting the urge to do this. But that's gonna look because I want to get so comfortable, so I'm like this. Yeah, so my body language is like not there. It's just because like I'm trying not to like.
Yeah, spread out.
Yeah,
You're good.
come on,
Okay,
boys.
bro.
No.
What's your favorite thing to photograph? Like, do you have a favorite like weddings or portraits?
Or subject matter.
I really love doing couples, and I really, really love doing seniors. I feel like with seniors, you can play a little bit more. Like on a wedding day, it's very strict. You're very like time-wise, you gotta be boom, boom, boom. But like for seniors or just couples photos, not even weddings, but just in general, like it's more relaxed. And with seniors, you can add more props. You can do like, you know, add something that's personalized to them. Like I have a client who I'm going to be doing in the spring who's a gymnast. And so she wanted to incorporate that into her session. So that's what we're going to do. And so, yeah, I'd say those two are my favorite. I also like the dynamic with another person, like another person you're in love with. So I do like that dynamic too when I'm shooting.
What do you think about like mini sessions?
I do mini sessions. They can be really good or they could be really not. Just depending on there's a ton of different factors. Like they're good if you're trying to do a burst of sessions and get in money and like theme sessions. Like I've done Christmas minis, Valentine minis, fall minis, all that stuff. I think it can be really good, like I said, for that, but I don't think people realize they do take a lot of time, especially if you're like having props and setting all that stuff up, and it costs money to do that. And then, you know, and sometimes like your minis will sell out and they'll be great. And then other times they won't. So.
I started off with I started off doing minis, but I only did them once, and that was it. So like, for me, it wasn't like the whole process of or what makes it a mini session. It was just like the people. So like people being late and they messed up everything else, and then like, I was like, so what I ended up doing it was putting that under portraits. So basically I have it broken down to like seasonal, and under seasonal that's where I do like the Christmas and but I just turn it into a full on session. Okay. Instead of just all right, let's go, you know. Yeah.
I think it takes a minute to get into, especially when I did them as a newer photographer. I was very worried about time constraints because to me, I was like, well, what if I don't get good photos within 2 minutes? So I was super worried about that. I was like, I need at least an hour or, you know, whatever. Now, as you get more experience and stuff, you can really just be like, okay, boom, boom, boom. We got this. We're doing this. We're getting this. Okay, you guys are done. Like, we'll keep it simple and quick. But as far as people being late, I do have that in my contract. Like, if you're 5 minutes late, your session is now 5 minutes long. If you miss your whole session, you might have to wait around till the end. And then if we have enough light or enough time or whatever, I'll get you. If not, you missed it and you forfeited the money for it.
So how long are you saying?
Mine are usually 10 to 15 minutes. So yeah, so most of mine this year have been 10 minutes.
Okay, that's not what you do over there, is it?
So you know when I put the whenever I was doing the Christmas thing, I used to turn it
not be
into
called the quickie.
I'm sorry?
Is it called the mini to not be called the quickie?
I mean, depending on your brand. Like if you're a boudoir photographer, you could call it that.
yeah, there you go.
Just asking because it seems like a good cover up. Well, how can we politically correctly say this?
Yeah.
Right.
This is a mini session.
Okay, I didn't. Okay, so I don't know why I thought that what you were doing over there was mean. Are they considered
So
mini?
so like kind of like what I told her was like I kind of stay away from like the mini session, and I made a seasonal. The only difference between my seasonal session versus a portrait session is the portrait session lasts from 45 to an hour, and with the seasonal one is 30 minutes. So technically, some minis are 30 minutes, but it just kind of gives us more time. And usually,
Gosh.
like I set the time, I said like it's from 3 to 3:30. This is our time. And kind of like the same thing. If they're late, you just got 15 minutes left here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and I like to put a buffer in between too. So like I'll do say I start shooting at 3, so my first session will be 3 to 3:10. My next session won't start to 3:15. So then they get like 5 minutes to, gather, or I get 5 minutes to finish out if it ran a little bit longer. But I try to stop it at that 10-minute mark, so that way everybody gets the same time.
Okay, so whenever you guys shoot, do you guys because I know the girl that I referenced a while ago, the photographer friend, I know she would talk to her subjects and she would like a lot of shots. She would do like 100 shots, and then she was like, "Yeah, out of all this, one of them is gonna work." And yeah, so that's something that I incorporate on mine. Like I would say like so many shots, and then out of all of them, one
Best ones.
yes.
So I, like I said, I started on a T2i, which did not have the greatest focusing. And then when I went to my Canon 6D, it also did not have very good focusing. I had a lot of focusing issues with it. So I tend to overshoot because I'm like, I've got to get something in focus. So I would shoot a lot. Now, that translated over to my Canon R6, which has much better focusing. So I still overshoot, but I've kind of rallied that back a lot. And I try not to get like 100 images of the same exact pose. Because then going back to edit all those, would be awful.
just thinking about so like, I personally think it would be better if instead of taking like a whole bunch of shots, you can take the same amount, but like actually take like a few seconds to look at it, frame it, take it, frame it, take it. So that's kind of what I do too. So like, cause same thing. Like I want to make sure that I at least get half of those shots looking good. You know what I mean? Because like if you take a lot of photos, me personally, just thinking about going back and trying to go through all those photos, it hurts my head.
Yeah,
It hurts my head.
I guess because she told me she did it right, so I tried doing it too. And there were some photos that it wasn't the auto thing; it was more so like snap, 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 snap. So there were some photos where I did that, but something was blurry. Then another one, something was blurry here. Another one, something was blurry there. Then I found the one, and then it kept on going. Okay, and then after I done deleted those ones, or I probably got like 3 that I'm gonna use. I delete those ones, and then I edit those 3, and then just choose my best one.
Yeah, like I said, I've done that before. I think it depends on your camera too. Like the focusing thing for me was an issue until I got my R6, and now I don't have to take nearly as many photos, and I really try to take my time. I think like newer photographers, especially me, because I have anxiety and I would want everything to be in focus, so I'd take a ton of shots. But now I really try to like take a second and set it up, especially if you're doing like portraits and it's not a wedding day where you have that time to do it. Like just take the time, do it, set it up, make sure everything's in focus that you want to be in focus, and then take the shot. Take a couple of them if it makes you like feel like you've got it, but usually that shot or two, you'll have it in focus. And it doesn't eat up all the shutter count for your camera.
You know what's a good way to take like the stress from like making sure your pictures aren't in focus is trying to do a wedding just video and trying to keep that on focus. Yeah. And then when you go back to the photography side, it's like, okay, it's not that bad. Yeah. You can see with the video, it's it keeps going the whole time. Like it's rolling the whole time. So like if your camera isn't focused and you go back to edit it, you can't just like chop it up because then it's gonna be weird from jumping to this to that. You know, it's just like, and then especially if it's like something very important, it's like they could be like, well, where's this part at? So it's like I think that's a good way to kind of get rid of the anxiety for photos. Because if it was photos, you can just, all right, let me retake some, real quick. But a video is like, there's no going back. Like this is
it is what it is. And in some parts of photography, that's true too. Like the ceremony, like that is what it is. So you kind of have to like get it in focus. And if you don't, well, it is what it is. So, and that could be a major problem later. Like, I've had instances where other people have stepped in front of me for the first kiss. So you may miss it, and like you have to like get it around them to get it.
Are you allowed to?
There should be there should be like a waiver or something that states that if that happens, just to save their occasion and everything, you should be able to smack them out the way.
Well, I do warn everybody. I'm like, look, in my contract, I don't specify that I'll capture any certain shots. So that protects me in case something were to happen. But I just basically am like, you've got to get out my way and take the shot. I say it in a nice way, but yeah, it's really, yeah. Right in the middle of the ceremony, But yeah, it's like, I'm going to find a way to capture it. But that's also why I tell my couples, you have to kiss for 6 seconds. Not a quick kiss. You got to stay there for 6 seconds. So then that way, if somebody does do that, I have time to get around and still get the shot. So. Yeah. Push them out of the way, Sparta kick them.
Yep.
What about food during the weddings? Like, and I'm asking this because I just remembered that photographer that deleted all the pictures he took because he was denying to play the food.
That.
What?
Yeah, like is it in your contract? Like, is there any part like, yo, I'm already there for a few hours, bro? Let me at least get a drink.
That's in my contract. Like, if I'm there for 6 or more hours, I get food. So it's in there. They can't deny that for me. They signed it. Yes.
Yeah,
I don't know how true it is, but like in the comments, somebody that knew them said that the way they put it on the thing, he actually was shooting. I don't know if he said for free or for half off because it was a frame.
Oh no, bro.
So that's what happened. He was like, he was either shooting with for like a big discount or for free, but since they treated him that way, he was like, nah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's in my contract. Like, I get food, whether that be the same thing that everybody else is eating or a vendor meal that they set up for me with the caterer. So yeah, it's in there. I always put it in there just because I know I've never personally had a problem with any of my clients being like, why or anything. They're just like, oh yeah, that's great, fine. But I have heard of photographers who have had problems with clients doing that and just not giving them a meal or something.
I feel like that's just common courtesy.
Yeah.
You can always eat. Like,
well, it'll be like, well, I just step away for however long and go run and get something to eat then, and then miss the first dance or whatever it is afterwards.
Like, how does it not make sense? Like, give you a plate and keep you there. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that was wild. That's
the photographer should be like the most comfy. Like, I'll even leave you a seat in my chair. Like, while the ceremony's happening, just so you have your space at all times. Like, you're there to work for me precisely. Like, why would I not make you the most comfortable person there?
Well, you know, we have their photos or their videos, and it's like, this is what you're going to have left after your wedding day. Like, these are the things you've got. You're not going to have your cake anymore. Like, after, at least not after your first year anniversary when you eat the top of it or whatever, but you're not going to have your cake anymore. Your flowers are going to wilt and die. You can preserve them, sure, but like, to capture your whole day, you've got photos and videos. So that's what you're going to be left with. So you think that people would, yeah, all of my clients have been great, but I mean, I have heard stories where that's not the case for every photographer or videographer.
How do you work well with like other videographers? Like whenever like uh, during the wedding, let's just say hire you for a photographer, they got another videographer. How do you like it?
I don't mind the videographers as long as we have established like rules pretty much, because I was at a wedding where I was a second shooter, thankfully, but where the videographer was like in almost every shot because they had to get their shot and wasn't allowing the photographer to get theirs. Like for instance, they didn't have a first look, they had a first touch. So they didn't see each other, the bride and the groom. They were just touching with their backs turned. The videographer was like right on top of them. And so it's hard to get a shot. Yes. But as long as there's like established rules, like you go ahead, you get your shot, then I'll get my shot. You know, don't step in front of me during the first kiss. I won't step in front of you during it. Like that kind of thing. Then I think it's fine. Like I work with a videographer a lot who, like, we kind of know how each other works now. And so I stay out of his shots, he stays out of mine, and it's great.
Is that one of those circumstances where telling the groom and the bride about time, like take 6 seconds while you kiss and all that you mentioned, is that where that would come in handy?
Yeah, it comes in handy because, I mean, honestly, they're in front of a whole bunch of people. They're nervous. Like, they may just think like a short peck, well, it's fine. But to capture like a couple, like not even a second kiss, you know, it's very hard. Like you have to be right on time with it. So I tell them 6 seconds because if somebody steps in front of me, I can move, or that way it's not so fast that nobody gets it.
Do you communicate with them during everything and things like that, or do you just adjust to whatever happens?
No, so like I send them emails starting months to weeks.
During the event itself, do you communicate with them and things like that, or do you just make sure that everything happens and you just capture it?
Well, I send prep emails. So I'm like, hey, this is what needs to happen. And then the day of, I'll remind them of it. Yeah, so like I send a prep email like a few days before the wedding. I'm like, hey, just so you know, you need a 6-second kiss. Just so you know, you need like all this stuff, have a box full of the items you want me to do details with, you know, that kind of thing. So I prep them for it. And then on the day before they'll walk down, I say, hey, remember 6-second kiss so I can get it. But I don't, now while it's happening in real time, there's nothing I can do.
What about an enforcer? Like, I'm just trying to start something here, but like whenever they kiss, right? If somebody gets in your way, like get the couple to actually have somebody to make sure that nobody's, you know, like engulfed. Like you're not supposed to step in front of like whatever's between the ball and the hole. Like basically that. Like if you see somebody,
make space for you.
Yeah.
Usually, so a lot of the places I've worked have a planner or somebody who kind of like will do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't had too many like family members of the bride or groom do that to me, but I have had them where it's a no phone wedding or like no, you know, it's an unplugged wedding where of course they've got phones or whatever. So what I've started doing, and sometimes I'll edit it out, sometimes I won't, because they kind of know what they signed up for on that one. Or sometimes I replace it with something ridiculous that they're holding, just for fun to send to the couple. I'll have the real one, but I also have like a funny one of like somebody holding a chicken instead of their cell phone or whatever, just to be silly. Which they appreciate because they know that, you know, they obviously know their wedding was supposed to be unplugged and and somebody's holding something crazy. But, I mean, yeah, most of the time the planners will step in and just be like, hey, I need you to kind of like move out of the photographer's way. So.
Okay. Do you capture as the day goes, or do you also have specific segments when you're like, I need y'all for 5 minutes by ourselves for some poses, and then continue throughout the day. Right?
So it'll depend on what they have in their timeline, which I talk with either their planner or them to kind of figure out how it's going to look. So for instance, if they have like a first look or a first touch, I make sure to capture that. And then if it's a first look, I can do some couple portraits within that because they've seen each other. But usually it's very structured. Like by the time I arrive, I'm taking detail photos, which they should already have for me in a box because I told them that I would need those. So that way they don't have to waste time gathering it. That'll be like 30 to 40 minutes to do that. And then I'm doing like a dress shot, and then I'm doing the bridesmaids getting ready, and then once she's in her dress, I'll go see where the groomsmen are, take some shots of them getting ready. Might be time for a first look, come and do that. So like everything is broken down. That way I make sure I'm always there to capture whatever it is. And then at the end, after the ceremony, we do the couple's photos. So.
How much equipment do you take during like a full wedding day?
I usually have my 2 camera bodies, a spare body. I have 4 flashes, my dual harness, my single harness, my 70 to 200, my 28 to 70, my 50, and then I have these macro filters that go on my 50. I take those. I carry a bunch. I have a wagon full of stuff. Like,
I just got one too.
Yeah.
I just got one too for that.
So my wedding camera bag is actually a roller bag. It's about this big, and that keeps all of my like main equipment, my camera bodies, lenses, all that stuff in there. But I also have like this big box that basically I have like things for details in. So extra trays to make it look pretty, or ribbons, or, you know, just a bunch of extra props if they don't have a lot of details to kind of spice it up a little bit. And then I carry my rolls of my flat lay rolls with me. So I carry a few of those. My light stands. I do always have a reflector just in case. So I carry that with me. I actually have an emergency kit that I carry too, and it's got things like deodorant, whatever for bridesmaids, like extra pins for the groomsmen, like stain remover in case the bride gets something on her dress, like all kinds of stuff. So I'm usually loaded down with things. Yeah.
I recently got a wagon too because of that. I guess the more experience you get on something, the more you want to bring with you.
Yeah. And I like to prepare, so that was the whole reason for the emergency kit. Like, I've run into brides who rip their dress, so I have a sewing kit. I've run into like they've dropped something on it, so I have the stain remover. Like Tums, I had a bridesmaid who was pregnant, and she needed Tums, and I had them for her. So like all kinds of things, like the boutonniere pins or whatever, they broken, like, and then they have no more. So I have those. So the more you kind of do it, the more you realize what you might need. So I have that emergency kit as backup, but like for gear wise, it's your preference. Like you like to shoot on primes and stuff, so you kind of do your preference for it. But I bring, like the place I shoot a lot, like I have to be farther away because there's no place on the sides because it's by a pond.
Okay.
So I need that lens to capture them. So.
Where's your vision going right now with photography?
So I just went full time this past, this past summer. And so right now I'm really just focusing on like some connections with different people in the industry. Like I've met some venue owners, and I'm trying to work with them so that I can be on the preferred vendors list. So then that way their clients will come to me. And then also like, I really do want to expand on my seniors, and because I want to create a senior team. And then I also want to expand on like business branding. So for other small businesses, doing branding and photos for them.
So do you see kind of like the way I see it? Because I'm a black and gray artist, right? But I like doing color. Is there something that you prefer, or is it like basically I don't want to eat a chicken sandwich every day, so every now and then I'll get a steak? Is that kind of like what you do, like me?
Different genres of photography. Yeah. I would say like I do love my weddings, but they take so much time and you're there all day and then you have all that time you have to edit. But before that, you have all the prep you have to do with them. So they take a lot of time. It's nice to kind of break it up with a family or with a senior or someone else, you know, to do that with. Yeah, you get variety because, like I said, I love weddings, but I don't just want to do weddings. So, and I have a daughter, and weddings, you know, take a lot of time. So eventually I want to get to a point where I scale that back just a little bit, where I'm still doing weddings, I'm still doing what I love, but I started my business to spend more time with my family. So I want to be able to do stuff with her on the weekends too.